Now, in morning, what happened? The town of Motihari became black with peasants because actually they were not knowing about Gandhi's record in South Africa. They just heard that a Mahatma who wanted to help the peasants was in trouble with the authorities, and they had a demonstration in thousands around the courthouse, and that was the beginning of their liberation from fear of the British. The officials felt powerless without Gandhi's cooperation. He helped them regulate the crowd. He was polite and friendly. He was giving them concrete proof that their might, hitherto dreaded and unquestioned, could be challenged by Indians. Now, the officials found it very hard to manage the crowd which was surrounding the courthouse. Now, Gandhi helped them control the crowd. Gandhi was very polite and friendly. He was just giving concrete proof that their strength, even though the peasants are now feared and unquestioned, it cannot be challenged by the Indians. The British people cannot challenge the Indians. The government was baffled. The prosecutor requested the judge to postpone the trial. Apparently, the authorities wished to consult their superiors. Gandhi protested against the delay. He read a statement pleading guilty. He was involved, he told the court, in a conflict of duties on the one hand, and not to set a bad example as a lawbreaker. On the other hand, to render the humanitarian and national service for which he had come. He disregarded the order to leave, not for want of respect for lawful authority, but in obedience to the higher law of our being, the voice of conscience. He asked the penalty due. Now, what happened? The government was perplexed. They were confused. The prosecutor requested the judge to postpone the case. The authorities actually wished to consult their superiors before taking any decision. Now, Gandhi protested against the delay. He read a statement pleading guilty. He said that actually he had a conflict of duties. On one hand, he was not to be set as a bad example as a lawbreaker, but on the other hand, he had to render the humanitarian and national service for which he had come. He neglected the order to leave, not because for want of respect for lawful authority, but he wanted to obey the higher law of our being, the voice of conscience. And Gandhi asked the penalty due. The magistrate announced that he would pronounce sentence after a 2-hour recess and asked Gandhi to furnish bail for those 120 minutes. Gandhi refused. The judge released him without bail. Now the magistrate announced that he will save the punishment after a 2-hour break, and he asked Gandhi to give bail for those 120 minutes. But Gandhi refused, and the judge released him without even a bail. When the court reconvened, the judge said he would not deliver the judgment for several days. Meanwhile, he allowed Gandhi to remain at liberty. When the court was met again after a break, the judge said that he will not deliver any judgment for several days, and Gandhi was freed. Rajendra Prasad, Brij Kishore Babu, Maulana Mazharul Haq, and several other prominent lawyers had arrived from Bihar. They conferred with Gandhi what would they do if he was sentenced to prison. Gandhi asked why. The senior lawyer replied they had come to advise and help him. If he went to jail, there would be nobody to advise and they would go home. Now, Rajendra Prasad, Brij Kishore Babu, Maulana Mazharul Haq, and several other prominent lawyers came from Bihar to meet Gandhi. They consulted with Gandhi and they said if Gandhi is being sent to prison, then what they will do. For that, the senior lawyer replied that they had come to advise Gandhi and help him, and if he went to jail, then there will not be anybody to advise and lead the case. They will all go to home. What about the injustice to the sharecroppers? Gandhi demanded. The lawyers withdrew to consult. Rajendra Prasad has recorded the upshot of their consultations. They thought amongst themselves that Gandhi was totally a stranger, and yet he was prepared to go to prison for the sake of the peasants. If they, on the other hand, being not only residents of the adjoining districts, but also those who claim to have served these peasants should go home, it would be shameful desertion. Now, Gandhi was very much thoughtful about the injustice that was happening to the sharecroppers. Now, the lawyers had a discussion. They withdrew their consult because Rajendra Prasad has recorded the conclusion of their consultation that These lawyers thought among themselves that Gandhi was a total stranger for them, and yet he was prepared to go to prison for the sake of these peasants. But these lawyers, they being the residents of the nearby districts who have already claimed the case of the peasants, if they are going home, then it will be a shameful decision. They accordingly went back to Gandhi and told him they were ready to follow him into jail. The battle of Champaran is won, he exclaimed. Then he took a piece of paper and divided the group into pairs and put down the order in which each pair was to court arrest. So the lawyers, they arrived at a good decision and they went back to Gandhi and said that they were also ready to follow him to jail for the cause of the Champaran sharecroppers. And Gandhi exclaimed that the battle of Champaran is won now, and he took a piece of paper and divided the group of lawyers into pairs, and he put the order in which each pair was to get court arrest, so that if one is in jail, the other group can lead the case of the Champaran peasants at court. Several days later, Gandhi received a written communication from the magistrate informing him that the lieutenant governor of the province had ordered the case to be dropped. Civil disobedience had triumphed the first time in modern India. So after several days, Gandhi is receiving a written communication, a letter from the magistrate informing that the lieutenant governor of the province had ordered the case to be dropped. So for the first time, civil disobedience. What do you mean by civil disobedience, children? Not obeying government rules. It had a victory, and it was the first time in modern India. So Gandhi was released from the case filed against him. Now Gandhi and the lawyers now proceeded to conduct a far-flung inquiry into the grievances of the farmers. Depositions by about 10,000 peasants were written down and notes made on other evidence. Documents were collected. The whole area throbbed with the activity of the investigators and the vehement protest of the landlords. Now, as Gandhi was free from the case and the court summon and all those things, Gandhi and the lawyers now proceeded to conduct a very good inquiry in the complaints of the farmers. And they had petition from about 10,000 peasants. They made them sign the petition, and several notes were made on other evidence, documents were collected, and the whole area was beating fast with the activity of the investigators, and it also faced a very ardent protest of the landlords. In June, Gandhi was summoned to Sir Edward Gate, the lieutenant governor. Before he went, he met. In the month of June, Gandhi was asked to meet the lieutenant governor of the province, Sir Edward Gate, and before he went to meet him, he had a meeting with the leading associates and again laid detailed plans for civil disobedience if he should not return. So Gandhi is taking some measures to continue with the protest if Gandhi is not returning back after meeting the lieutenant governor. Gandhi had 4 protracted interviews with the lieutenant governor, who as a result appointed an official commission of inquiry into the indigo sharecropper situation. The commission consisted of landlords, government officials, and Gandhi as the sole representative of the peasants. Gandhi remained in Champaran for an initial uninterrupted period of 7 months and then again for several shorter visits. The visit undertaken casually on the entreaty of an unlettered peasant in the expectation that it would last a few days occupied almost a year of Gandhi's life. Now Gandhi had a long meeting than expected, an interview with Lieutenant Governor. As a result of their meeting, the governor appointed an official commission to inquire about the indigo sharecropper situation. And the commission consisted of landlords, government officials, and Gandhi was the only representative of the peasants. And Gandhi remained in Champaran for an initial uninterrupted period of 7 months. And again he had shorter visits. Actually, the visit undertaken casually on the earnest request of an not educated peasant in the expectation that it would last a few days. Actually, it occupied almost a year in Gandhi's life. So we can understand the dedication of Gandhi. Once he is involved in any cause, he was not someone who will return from it unless it had a very positive, justified ending. The official inquiry assembled a crushing mountain of evidence against the big planters, and when they saw this, they agreed in principle to make refunds to the peasants. But how much must we pay? They asked Gandhi. Now, after the official inquiry, the ultimate truth came out. There was a huge mountain of evidence against the big planters, and they agreed to make refunds to the peasants, and they asked Gandhi how much they should pay. They thought he would demand repayment in full of the money which they had illegally and deceitfully extorted from the sharecroppers. He asked only 50%. There he seemed adamant. Writes Reverend J. Z. Hodge, a British missionary in Champaran, who observed the entire episode at close range. Thinking probably that he would not give way, the representative of the planters offered a refund to the extent of 25%, and to his amazement, Mr. Gandhi took him at his word, thus breaking the deadlock. Actually, the big planters thought that Gandhi would ask for the full payment of the money, but Gandhi just asked for the 50%. And Reverend J. Z. Hodge was a British missionary in Champaran. He had observed the entire episode, and Gandhi was very firm in asking the repayment of 50% of the money, which was illegally and cheatfully grabbed by the sharecroppers. And the representative of the planters offered a refund to the extent of 25%, and Gandhi was okay with that, and thus the deadlock was broken. And what was the deadlock? See, the deadlock refers to the suffering of these Champaran peasants. This settlement was adopted unanimously by the commission. Gandhi explained that the amount of the refund was less important than the fact that the landlords had been obliged to surrender part of the money and with it part of their prestige. Therefore, as far as the peasants were concerned, the planters had behaved as lords above the law. Now the peasant saw that he had rights and defenders. He learned courage. Actually, Gandhi was not at all bothered about the amount of refund because, according to him, the landlords had surrendered the part of money, and that was actually a surrender of their influence also. And as far as the peasants were concerned, the planters, they had behaved as lords above the law. Actually, they were the lords above the law. Now the peasants saw that they are having the rights and there are people to defend them. And the peasants learned courage. That was more important for Gandhi. Events justified Gandhi's position. Within a few years, the British planters abandoned their estates, which reverted to the peasants. Indigo sharecropping disappeared. Now, the following events justified the Gandhi's position because within a few years, the British planters they gave up control of the estates and they went back, and the lands went back to the peasants. Indigo sharecropping disappeared from that place. So that was the huge victory of the sharecroppers of Champaran. Gandhi never contented himself with large political or economic solutions. He saw the cultural and social backwardness in the Champaran villages and wanted to do something about it immediately. He appealed for teachers, Mahadev Desai and Narhari Parikh, two young men who had just joined Gandhi as disciples, and their wives volunteered for the work. Several more came from Bombay, Pune, and other distant parts of the land. Devadas, Gandhi's youngest son, arrived from the ashram, and so did Mrs. Gandhi. Primary schools were opened in 6 villages. Kasturbai taught the ashram rules on personal cleanliness and community sanitation. Now we can see a very other phase of Gandhi. Gandhi was not someone who was just satisfied with the large political and economic solutions. He just don't give a solution for the Champaran peasants on the economic issues, on the social issues they were facing. Actually, he was so much moved by the cultural and social backwardness in the Champaran village, and he wanted to do something about it immediately. So he wanted teachers. He requested Mahadev Desai and Narhari Parikh, who just joined Gandhi's disciples, and their wives, volunteer the work. Several more people came from Bombay, Pune, and other distant parts of the land. Devadas, Gandhi's youngest son, arrived from the ashram along with his mother, Mrs. Gandhi, Kasturba Gandhi. and primary schools were opened in 6 villages in Champaran. And Kasturbai taught the ashram rules on personal cleanliness and community sanitation. Here we can see Gandhi reviving the entire peasant community in Champaran to a new living style. Health conditions were miserable. Gandhi got a doctor to volunteer his services for 6 months. Three medicines were available: castor oil, quinine, and sulfur ointment. Anybody who showed a quarter tongue was given a dose of castor oil. Anybody with malaria fever received quinine plus castor oil. Anybody with skin eruptions received ointment plus castor oil. So health conditions of these peasants were also miserable. Gandhi got a doctor to volunteer his service for 6 months. Actually, they had only three medicines. Castor oil, it's a pale yellow color vegetable oil, okay? And quinine is cinchona, it's a plant treatment for malaria, and they had a sulfur ointment. So anybody is having some coated tongue, some fungal tongue and all, they were given castor oil, and those who are suffering from malaria fever were given quinine along with castor oil, and anybody with skin eruptions, maybe the breakout of spots on skin, they received ointment plus castor oil. Gandhi noticed the filthy state of women's clothes. He asked Kasturbai to talk to them about it. One woman took Kasturba into her hut and said, "Look, there is no box or cupboard here for clothes. The sari I am wearing is the only one I have." Now we have a very shocking account of the condition of the women's. Gandhi noticed the dirty state of women's clothes. He asked Kasturba to talk to them about it. And then one woman is taking Kasturba into her hut, and she said that there is no box or cupboard in her hut to keep clothes because the sari that she was wearing was the only one she had. Such a very moving, touching account of the condition of women's plight, the peasants they had. During his long stay in Champaran, Gandhi kept a long distance watch on the ashram. He sent regular instructions by mail and asked for financial accounts. Once he wrote to the residents that it was time to fill in the old latrine trenches and dig new ones, otherwise the old ones would begin to smell bad. See, even though Gandhi was so busy with the services in Champaran, he always had a long distance watch on his ashram. He sent regular instructions by mail and he asked for the financial accounts. He asked the residents to fill the old latrine deep pits and to dig new ones because otherwise the old one may smell bad. That much very keen and observative Gandhi was about the happenings in his ashram. The Champaran episode was a turning point in Gandhi's life. What I did, he explained, was a very ordinary thing. I declared that the British could not order me about in my own country. Now, Gandhi's remarks about the Champaran episode was a turning point in Gandhi's life. He said that he did a very ordinary thing. He just declared that British could not order him in his own country. But Champaran did not begin as an act of defiance. It grew out of an attempt to alleviate the distress of large numbers of poor peasants. This was the typical Gandhi pattern. His politics were intertwined with the practical day-to-day problems of the millions. His was not a loyalty to abstractions. It was a loyalty to living human beings. Actually, Champaran began not as an act of defiance. Defiance means one's refusal to obey. Actually, it grew out of an attempt to ease the suffering of the large number of poor peasants. It was actually a typical Gandhi pattern. His politics was intermixed with practical day-to-day problems of millions. He was not a faithful, he was not a concrete fellow. Actually, according to him, faithfulness was to living human beings. He was very loyal to his fellow human beings. In everything Gandhi did, moreover, he tried to mold a new free Indian who could stand on his own feet and thus make India free. So whatever Gandhi did in Champaran, actually he was trying to mold a new free Indian who could stand on his own feet and thus make India free. In order to make India free, first Indians could stand on his own feet. Early in the Champaran action, Charles Freer Andrews, the English pacifist, What do you mean by pacifist, children? One who believes in peace. Who had become a devoted follower of the Mahatma, came to bid Gandhi farewell before going on a tour of duty to the Fiji Islands. Gandhi's lawyer friends thought it would be a good idea for Andrews to stay in Champaran and help them. Andrews was willing if Gandhi agreed, but Gandhi was vehemently opposed. He said, "You think that in this unequal fight it would be helpful if we have an Englishman on our side. This shows the weakness of your heart. The cause is just and you must rely upon yourselves to win the battle. You should not seek a prop in Mr. Andrews because he happens to be an Englishman." Now, early in the Champaran action, there was an English pacifist by the name Charles Freer Andrews. He had become a devoted follower of Mahatma, and he came to bid farewell to Gandhi, who was going on a tour of duty to the Fiji Islands. Actually, Gandhi's lawyer friends thought that it will be a good idea if Andrews will stay in Champaran to help them. Andrews was also willing, but Gandhi angrily opposed. He said that it is an unequal fight and don't think that it would be helpful if you have an Englishman on your side. This shows the weakness of your heart. If the cause is just, you must rely upon yourselves to win the battle. You should not seek a support in Mr. Andrews because he is an Englishman. He had read our minds correctly, Rajendra Prasad comments, and we had no reply. Gandhi in this way taught us a lesson in self-reliance. Self-reliance, Indian independence, and help to sharecroppers were all bound together. So Rajendra Prasad remarks that Gandhi had exactly read the minds of the lawyers and they were not having any reply. And as Gandhi left the Fiji Islands, he just taught them the lesson in self-reliance. Children underline the word self-reliance and highlight it because self-reliance, Indian independence and helping the sharecroppers were all bound together. Self-reliance means self-dependence. Okay. So you may be asked the question how the Champaran Satyagraha or the Champaran movement highlights an example of self-reliance as portrayed by Gandhi. Okay. So you should say that self-dependence. Gandhi taught them the lesson of self-reliance through the entire Champaran episode. So children, before coming to the live session, watch the video twice or thrice. Read the textbook if you can and clear the doubts. So see you all in the live session. Thank you. Have a nice day.